everybody. I'm Matt Valley, and welcome to episode number 78 of the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories and side gigs of the research and insights pros that you trust. So I'm just back from the TMRE in San Antonio this week, and it was a really great conference, I must say. But I'm back just in time to welcome Adam Conley to the podcast. Welcome, Adam. So Adam is currently the Regional Insights Director for North America at Mars Wrigley, which is one of my very favorite consumer goods companies, I must say, where he's been for just about 5 years. You must be having a 5-year anniversary coming up. Is that right?
I do, yeah. January.
Cool. Well, my last 5-year anniversary with an employer, I got a sweet set of luggage that I used this week. So
I'll make sure that my company hears about that. I'll send this to the right people.
All right, you're hoping for something nice, all right. So before Mars Wrigley, Adam spent time at Reckitt Benckiser and GlaxoSmithKline, and started his career on the supplier side. So lots of good stuff there. Now, what's super interesting about Adam is outside of work, he is deeply passionate about music. So when I say deeply passionate, I don't just mean listening to music, which of course, or playing music. I understand you play the bass a little bit. But what I'm talking about is really getting into the guts of what makes a particular artist sound the way they do. So we're talking about what are their influences, what really makes them tick, and which shoulders they stood upon to create the greatness that they did, right? So it's not hard to see how that translates very closely to a really good career in insights. So we're going to talk about all that and more on today's podcast. So welcome again, Adam.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm really looking forward to it. Matter of fact, the fun fact behind how we came together is I sought you out. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be vulnerable here.
All right.
I sought Matt out because I was like, rock and roll and research. Yes. Combine them together. You now combined a superpower, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to be on this podcast because Matt's awesome. He's talking about awesome stuff. And I'm like, you're combining two of my favorite things. So
cool, man.
Absolutely coming to my sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's like chocolate and peanut butter, is it not? So
I like it.
There you go.
A little bit of nougat with caramel, peanuts enrobed in chocolate. Simply satisfying.
My language. All right. Super cool. Well, I'm so glad that you sought me out. I know we talked briefly yesterday, I think, and I could have talked to you for hours. So super happy to be back on.
Yeah.
So let's get into it, right? So how did you get into insights in the first place? And tell us a little bit about your career trajectory.
Yeah, so I was a little bit of one of those lost souls going into school. I knew there was things that I was passionate about, music particularly being one of them, basketball being another.
Nice.
Went to play basketball at a Division II school, really was trying to follow my hoop dream.
Cool.
Tore my ACL. So blew out my knee. That was shortly into my sophomore year. Probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me because I was lacking maturity, lacking direction. Didn't know what I wanted to do next, just wanted to play basketball. And that put a pause on that. So I started to focus on some of the other stuff to figure out what am I going to do next. Got into an internship while I was just out of university, actually my second semester of my senior year, which is supposed to be fun time. I was traveling across Connecticut to do an internship on Fridays, turned that into a summer internship, turned that into a full-time position, working on consumer segmentation and positioning, which those of us nerds that know research, that's about as cool as it gets.
It is. I just had that conversation 2 hours ago.
Yeah, dicing apart different consumer groups, seeing their similarities, seeing where it can be advantageous, occasion segmentation, consumer segmentation, and how you turn that into where are we going to go next with this brand and how we can shape it into really making an impact in that category. I caught the research bug really while I was doing it. Always knew that I loved stats. I love stats. I even like as it connects to sports. I was always the guy that
Right.
would look at the back of the card and remember all the stats that no one should ever need to know. So
Same.
combine that with love to understand consumer behavior, studied psychology, studied business management in school, just combining those things and creativity. I am not the most creative. I don't think I'm the most creative person in the world. I try to flex that muscle. I think you can develop that muscle.
Right.
That's going to probably dovetail us nicely into why I'm so passionate about learning what's under the underbelly of music, the people that are the most creative people that I engage with on a regular basis are in music.
Sure, sure. So let's hear how you then went. So you had an internship and I think you're on the
Yeah,
supplier side, right? And then
yeah,
you made the transition to the client side. So tell us a little bit about that.
yeah. So started out consumer segmentation positioning company, then went over to brand health and equity tracking. Liked the method that they used at the time, and this will date me. They sent people Palm Pilots to record their consumption behavior, got
Yes.
it back, then they got the data off the Palm Pilot. They sent this out to thousands of people for a 2-week period of diarying, and that's how we got close to like actual behavior, which was always a passion point for me. It's like, oh, okay, so we're actually really learning what they're doing. Now a little bit antiquated, but at the time, ahead of its time. So went to that, and then I went to online qual quant, which
Okay.
was synchronous, robust samples of people where we could chat with them, but we could also get a quantitative read on concept testing, ad testing, you name it, we could test it. And we would often do that at the client's office as it's happening, react
Okay.
to it on the fly. So went there, did that for like 3 years.
Okay.
One more stop before I decided that I needed to shift gears and ultimately go to the client side. That's what I really wanted to. I want to make a bigger impact on how it was driving business outcomes. So
Got
I
it.
went
So
to GlaxoSmithKline.
that was a purposeful decision where you
100%.
wanted
Yeah.
to try and
Actually, I was
get
laid off at my last company. We lost a big piece of our business. A few of us on the team were let go because they couldn't sustain that type of clients service team without the
right.
kind of business that we had.
Mhm.
So turning again, just like my ACL, inflection point,
Yeah.
learn, take it as a step back. And what do I really want to do next? And that's what I really wanted to do. So I moved from Connecticut to New Jersey and my wife is like the most understanding and supportive and go with it person.
Awesome.
Yeah, real superpower of hers. So we moved from Connecticut to New Jersey to go join GlaxoSmithKline. And that was
Cool.
my
Cool.
first stop on the client side.
And last question, tell us a little bit about your current role at Mars Wrigley.
Yes, now we call ourselves human intelligence internally, which
Mhm.
is not really the trend for the name of the function externally. But I love that name change. We've been consumer insights in the past. It's an intentional move to really understand before somebody ever becomes a consumer, before
Mhm.
somebody ever says, I'm going to pick up a Snickers, I'm going to pick up an M&M's or one of those awful products that is not a Snickers, M&M's or the ones that Mars makes. Before they ever get to that step, they are human, right?
Right.
And we often we fast forward through all the stuff that influences the occasions that they're trying to fulfill for, what they really want, what they're really trying to get from that experience. We
Sure.
fast forward past all that and we say, oh, what does the packaging look like? What's the product experience? So we don't actually grasp the full, this is who our consumer really is by way of them being a human. So it's understand that before they ever become a consumer. I find that inspirational. I oversee human intelligence for North America for Mars Wrigley. For those that are not familiar with our brands, I said Snickers, it's M&M's, it's Twix, it's Three Musketeers, it's Milky Way, it's Dove, Skittles, Starburst,
Yeah.
Lifesavers, all these gum brands that are great, Five, Orbit, Extra, and on and on and on. So we've got
Yep.
great brands in our portfolio, and then ice cream as well, which let me tell you something, during COVID, a lot of people turn into ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right. I'm sure that's the case. Well, let's hope it's continued, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, listen, just do it in a health conscious way, have
Yep.
some balance, and we're in good shape.
There you go. Perfect. Well, that sounds like a crazy cool job. But what's what's even cooler is your passion for music. And I was really blown away by just your depth of knowledge and the knowledge that you sought via biographies and other means. So tell us a little bit about where that came from.
You know what, I've always been kind of big in biographies. I'm very humble, and I by nature I'm a student. I'm a
Mhm.
student until I die, right? And I feel like I continue need to fill that knowledge gap. And what I look at is who are the people that inspire me. And I've always been big on biographies. I've read about 10 biographies on John F. Kennedy. Just to see different angles, what makes him tick, what
Sure.
inspired the ability to take us out of the doldrums of the post-World War II era and move into like moving us forward, really
Mhm.
driving the vision of where we can go next, the space programs. Like, it's really about that inspiration, right? So
Right.
what inspired him to say we need to inspire the masses to move forward, to really feel like we can do the next thing? There's a big conquest out there that's waiting for us. So I was like, I got to tap into that. And you can only go so far. Like, for me, I'm not in politics. And I was like, okay, that's one that I like really liked. And I like checked out Jefferson and Clinton and Lincoln, like these guys are all like very inspirational. But then I was like, that's not a part of my everyday life.
Right.
So I went into sports biographies,
Hmm.
and that's cool. And I still check out a sports biography every once in a while, but eventually you get tired of like hearing their take on the way that they approach the game, because it's
Hmm.
very consistent.
Right. Yep.
Like there's a consistent thread. Now you actually initially you want to see the consistent thread, and you get inspired by like, so that's the secrets of the sauce.
Hmm.
And then you go into business based learning, and you do those kind of books, and it's like, okay, well, I see that consistent thread again. And then music, I'm like, this is my real passion.
Yeah.
And like, doesn't COVID amplify music for everybody? Because like you got like isolated, you were like in your own little world, and it's like, what
Yeah.
is keeping me inspired, and what's the advantage of having my little space to myself? Like, I
Yeah.
really like re-engaged with music, and just really amplified my desire to get into the biographies, because musicians come from very different angles. There's a
Yeah.
lot going into music, into their inspiration, what makes them tick, the artistic form of music, and what
Hmm.
evolves over time is very radical, right?
Right.
If we think about the music that we listen today, 80% of the influence of it has come within the last 75 years, right? But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wouldn't have come if it
Absolutely.
wasn't for the 75 years prior to that.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
think when Fender was first made, like electric guitars are
Yeah.
still in their infancy.
Yeah.
It blows your
Yeah.
mind.
That's a really interesting perspective. I noticed a similar, but within there's a lot more congruence within that period than we realized too, which I didn't realize because I play the drums, and so I went from being in a thrash metal band to a punk band to a rockabilly band and a country band and a jazz band, and I could see like that consistent thread because I was playing music from across decades, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, it's really all the same at the core, at least like the beat and the way it's constructed that way. It was
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they inspire each other.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
for
what I also like. I think I went through a similar journey, Matt. Like, you've done it by way of like, I'm influenced by some of this directly. I'm in a band, right? And like, you'll find even within your band, like other members of the band, like you'll have your consistency of like,
yeah,
these are something we're all passionate about. And then you'll have that one guy that raises an eyebrow because it's like way off the beaten path from where you go,
right.
right?
Yep,
Like
totally.
Duff McKagan as an example, one of his favorites is Prince. And you're like, Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, who has a background in punk
Yeah,
music, one of his
yeah,
favorites that he gets super passionate about. Listen to him talk about Prince, and he'll
yeah,
go on for hours. And you're
yeah,
like, whoa. But then you realize about yourself, you're like, wait, I listen to some stuff that doesn't make sense together.
right. Yeah,
And we all do that. And it's just all going to inspire us. And sometimes you don't even know what it is. It's
yeah,
just like there's a beat to it, or like the way that guy sings is just incredible. Music has got so many layers to it. You can just latch on to one layer. Another guy can be like, dude, this is all about the bass. I don't know how you
yeah.
aren't like excited about it because of the bass. It just
Right,
creates
right.
that
Yeah.
dialogue, that debate.
So are there some biographies that have just blown your mind and have been super insightful?
So I'm a nerd, an admitted nerd. So what I did leading up to this, because I knew we were going to go heavy, is I'm also very tactile. So I keep all my
Okay.
books. They're just stacking up now. So I have actually stacked up books, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a whistle stop of why I love them. I've read them mostly within the last 5 years, all of these
Okay.
books. So the first one, and I know some people are just listening, is Flee, Acid for the Children. Disruptive title, but actually not nearly as disruptive in terms of the book. What I love about it is it's his origin story.
Right.
It only goes up to when he becomes Mr. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Very different take on an autobiography where he's like, I'm going to give you like literally the stuff that I go after anyway. It's like, what is inspiring you? You know, hearing about how he grew up in a music house, hearing when he first met Anthony Kiedis and how they got together, and how music was very secondary to it at times. Very cool. I'm going to go quick because I got a lot. Jay-Z Decoded.
Nice.
When it came out, amazingly different take, because what he does is provide the backstory behind all of the songs, and really says, let me flip hip hop, let me flip rap on its head, because you think that this is all about, you know, bitches and hoes, and that's the label that we own. But ultimately, let me give you these backstories of what drives the music, what's under the underbelly of rap. And it was the first time that I ever heard it described in such an incredible way and decomposed in that way. So Jay-Z Decoded, really cool take. Really cool. The Tao, I always say that word wrong, but Tao of Wu by the Wu-Tang, by RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. Guy could start a religion tomorrow. You read this book, you're convinced that this is better than 99% of the religions that are out there. Guy is so deep. So deep. It's incredible. I didn't know that that's what this was about. I really thought it was going to be really about the Wu-Tang Clan, all about his philosophical approach to life. Catch a Fire by Bob Marley. Dude lived with Bob Marley, basically dedicated the rest of his life to revising, rewriting this book over and over, multiple editions. And then his wife picked it up after. That's a passion project. Wow. You want to get a thorough background on Bob Marley. No, first of all, if you can't get an autobiography, which unfortunately oftentimes in music we can't. If somebody dies young, Bob Marley is an example. There's a guy that was with him. So if you can go to the first person, just like in research, the closer you can get to the actual experience, the better, the more legitimate the story is, and usually the more passionate the person is. So that's that one. Duff McKagan, I talked about him earlier. That's how I learned about how he's obsessed with Prince. Also Motorhead, Lemmy. Yeah, awesome. There you go.
Speaking my language. Now with Duff, I am a huge fan of his replacement as well, which is Tommy Stinson from The Replacements. So
there you go. Okay.
I don't know if you read that one, Trouble Boys, about The Replacements.
I didn't. I'm going to have to put it on the list now. See?
All right, cool. All right.
I have a long list.
Keep going.
Fashion is a fashion, The Clash.
Nice.
Wearing a Clash t-shirt. Clash action.
Oh yeah.
My favorite bands. Passion is a fashion, great book. Not first person, but great stories in there about how the Clash, honestly, genuine, the real deal article. When you talk about punk, yes, it's about the music, but it's also about the attitudes, about what you care about, how you show up. The Clash, genuine article. David Corsaro mentioned this one, your last podcast. That's a reference back as a fan to your last podcast. He mentioned the Beastie Boys book. Written in the first person phonetically. You actually feel like you're sitting down and having fun with your friends who happen to be the Beastie Boys.
Oh, cool.
That's how they bring you in. It's just like they're talking with you conversationally. That's why that special on Apple TV actually works so well, because the book was all very conversational. It's bringing you into their stories. So very cool. I like that. I'll skip ahead here. I've got a few more, but anyway, Dave Grohl, humble dude. Who has some of the most incredible friends in rock and roll music. Friends with Paul McCartney. Met Iggy Pop randomly when he was like really in his infancy, starting out, and Iggy Pop needed a backing band, so asked him to join him. It's like, that doesn't happen. That's not realistic. But super humble dude, and also huge fan of the people he's friends with. So put away all of his Beatles paraphernalia before Paul McCartney came over, because he didn't want him freak him out or look like a nerd.
Yeah.
How relatable is that? I'm like, if McCartney shows up tomorrow, I'm like wearing the Beatles shirt and I'm like having him sign my record. I don't care if he's my best friend.
So,
But I got John Lennon, Tune In, which is one of 3 books that are going to be read about written about the Beatles. Only one's written so far. It's only the first third of their lifetime. I've
right.
never seen anything more thoroughly researched, more
Yeah.
thoroughly written. It's incredible. Like that dude
Yeah.
really went the extra level. Tune In.
Yeah,
Which is
the bar and the expectation has got to be so high for Beatles.
It's actually, I don't think I would have picked it up had I known that, first of all, he didn't do the other 2 yet. So I can't actually bring it to conclusion.
Right.
But I'm glad I did, because it's great. And I probably wouldn't have, it's intimidating to pick it up. It's
Yeah.
big. And then another one I'm going to get to, I love punk music from the 90s.
Yeah.
That's my center
too.
of gravity.
Me
Rancid
too.
is my favorite band.
Yes.
Which
Huge
they
fan.
actually, it's called Smash, and dude's a cool dude, so I'll just give it a shout out. Ian Winwood wrote that, and it's about East Bay punk. So Green Day, Offspring, Bad Religion, NoFX, 90s punk. They touch on Rancid. Look at that.
Got my little
7-inch.
Yeah, it's the double 10-inch version.
Oh, 10-inch. Okay, I was going to say it looks bigger, but not as big as my version.
Got to share my own prop. Okay, go ahead.
There,
Sorry.
cool. I love it. Rancid's my favorite band. Love those dudes. Listen to Lars Fredrickson wherever he's on podcasts. Get him on your podcast in the future. That's when I'll come back. And
if you can make the connection, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I saw him twice this year. He's phenomenal. But anyway, that's a whistle stop tour of some of the things that inspire me. They come with different takes. Fundamentally, what they bring you back to is what's the music that influenced them.
Yeah.
What was their upbringing? Most of them grow up in a music house, in an artistic house, in a house that is teaching them from an early age to think differently, operate differently, and based on my music choices, kind of reject the norm.
Yep.
Actually go counterculture. And more often than not, music kind of does that, but particularly punk music, hip hop music, hard rock music. It always is about, think differently, bring something differently to how you show up and what product you give.
Yeah, just so fascinating. I'm super jealous that you've read all those books, and I've got there's definitely a couple there that I'm going to pick up from you.
But you know what? The cheat code now is audiobooks. Like every time I recommend a book, because I still do read, right? I love to read because it actually disconnects me. At the same time, it inspires me. So it's like this multiple thing. It trains my brain. But audiobooks is a cheat code that can get you through a lot of content a lot quicker.
Yeah, definitely.
Feels like that's really the trend with podcasts, but also audiobooks is really something that people are really turning to, which is great.
Yeah, totally true. Totally true. So clearly there are some, I mean, you've understood a lot of this at such a deep level, and clearly there's a parallel there between kind of understanding music and all of its ins and outs and the various paths it can take and insights. So what does that look like for you?
This is my sweet spot already. So you say insights, I'm going to say with that. When you relate to music, even if you don't relate to the backstory of what makes that music, you hear the story, you feel the story, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Something about that is just pulling you in. I want to hear more about this. This isn't my experience, but you tell it so well. They're tapping into a human truth, a true insight. They're giving you that lay of the land. They're giving you a story that you can actually pick up and feel, even though it's music based, even though it has to do certain things based on the laws of the music, it's still telling you a story. It's still tapping into a real genuine insight. That's what music does when it's at its best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, why do I relate to this? This isn't my backstory. Like how many of us, heard Wu-Tang Clan for the first time, or Nas Illmatic, which is one of the best albums of all time. And you just heard that first beat and you're like, ooh, raw, edgy. And then if you actually hear from him what that was, he's like, I wanted to communicate what the sound would feel like to be in New York City after dark during the time I grew up.
Wow.
And
That's
I was
cool.
like,
Yeah.
talk about smart. Like people
Yeah.
that don't associate musicians with intelligence are missing so much of what goes into making music.
Hmm.
But like Nas, just like he blew my mind. Just
Yeah.
incredible. Like incredible. But like that's the kind of thing that you're like, you hear it, you feel it. Not sure why, because you weren't there. But
Yeah.
that's why, because he's tapping into an insight. He's bringing it through the thread of not just the lyrics, not just the words that he's using, not the way he's bringing it together, but every component of it. And then
Yeah.
just like research, it's about balance, right? You got your qual, you got your quant.
Yeah.
You got your, I heard this really interesting thing from that individual. Is that true of a bigger group?
Right. Right.
Right? Is that something we can connect to with our brand?
Right.
Is that something that we can be genuine and authentic about? Music's about authenticity, right? How often have you heard somebody that's like, you're going through the motions, but I just don't feel it from you, right?
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Like it's always the albums that sell really well, but then nobody wants to admit that they own.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think we all have those names. It's storytelling. To make insights land, to make market research land, when you're on the supplier side, when you're on the customer side, you have to tell a story. You have to tell it in such a compelling way that it sets up that insight to resonate and then end up doing something with it, right?
I- I really love that because I feel like when you were making the comparison with music and how it is about storytelling and it's all those elements, it's like you hear something like, "Oh, yes, okay, I get it," but I've never heard it explained that way, or it's explained through a story. It's one of the best definitions I've heard of what an insight is, right? Because there's been so much debate about, hey, what is an insight anyway? What does it mean? And I just love the way that you described that.
I mean, I think oftentimes something really resonates when we make a provocation, approach something from a different angle, and we
Right.
say something like, does speech matter today? In a world of Twitter and shorter communication,
Yeah.
and seeing how politicians are able to say things that is very disruptive in a negative way, but still landing a message.
Right.
Does
Yeah.
speech matter?
Absolutely.
So you raise that provocation
Yeah.
and then you unpack it and say, this is where it matters and this is how it matters for us.
Yeah.
Right? So you raise it with like that disruptiveness, and that's what music does too, right? Like Public
Yeah.
Enemy said fight the power, and then it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
NWA,
Yeah.
right? They
Yep.
didn't say, I'm a little bit upset about what's happening around here, so I'm going to try to, they kicked you in the face, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They opened that door,
Absolutely.
and you're like, okay, now I got to listen to what this message is, and you get
Yeah.
some people rejecting it, right?
Hmm.
Oh, that's too disruptive, but that message is out there now. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
NWA could come in
Yeah.
and land an insight in any company better than I could, better than anybody I've ever seen. Because
Yeah.
NWA approaches our profession the way they approached hip hop music at that time. Nobody is ignoring it and thumbing through their phone when NWA is up there telling their message, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's really deeply insightful. That's really cool stuff. So this is a lot about sort of the construction, like where does it come from? More, I guess a little bit backward looking and sort of building it up from there. So now looking forward, right? So you've done all this thinking, actually got a role where you're kind of responsible for this. What does insights look like going forward?
So I love this question. I have to think about this question all the time, both for self-preservation, for
Yeah.
preservation of my function and the role that we play in the company,
Right.
and to make us better, right? So if we play a different niche today than we did yesterday, and moving forward and projecting out what impact we can make in the future, what we
Right.
know more than anything else is there's more data available than ever in human history.
Right.
And a lot of companies like my company are paying a significant amount of money for that data.
Right.
And people say that data is power, and that's true with a caveat. I associate it with oil. Oil is power, correct? Oil in my backyard is a mess.
Right. Yeah.
And now I have to pay somebody to get rid of it.
Right.
And maybe I can benefit from it by getting the right person to get rid of it, do something with it. Now I can benefit from it. Otherwise, if it's just like, oh my God, it's ruining my grass,
Yeah.
then I need to get rid of it. I need to get it out of here. I got to pay somebody to get rid of it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So oil in the right hands is power. Oil, if I know what to do with it, is power. Data in the right hands, if I know what to do with it, is power.
Right.
Okay. My role, your role, is to get the correct data that can help us to drive an outcome.
Right.
Shape it and say, this is what you need to know from this data set.
Right.
Jack Ma, who is the founder of Alibaba.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a weird, you're going to like it, I think, because we're vibing.
Go for it.
He said, we are focusing on the wrong pieces of education because we keep telling people how to learn technology and be IT people and like really focus on learning technology, but we should actually be learning creativity.
Right.
Because
Yep.
when people are worried that AI is going to take their jobs, they're going to take technology jobs. AI will replace the need for you to go deep in technology, right?
Right. Right.
It won't replace its creativity.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
We need the people that are going to interpret what it all means and figure out what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
How does this interconnect to the so what, to our brands, to our consumers? How do you bring it to life? How do you make it feel empathetic? How do you actually start from empathy and then shape it? That's the role that we have to play. That doesn't answer everything.
Yeah.
But if I know that that's what I can do and I make that my superpower, then we're in good shape. That's what we own. And that's where an insight actually comes from anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where the world is shaping, is we're going to need more people to be creatively driving data into something.
Mm-hmm.
If it's advanced analytics people, they're still going to be taking the data sets, creating it into something. Then the next is the consumer insights people, the human intelligence people. What is it that we've created here? How do I interpret it? How do I embed it? That's the role to play. That's where I'm closer to.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'm curious to know because as I think about, what you've consumed in terms of content, you've gone so deep on things, and you've generated like a foundational understanding of a lot of concepts, right? So as of today, right? If you think about, obviously there's music, there's still a lot of reading and stuff that you're doing, but what media do you turn to for insight or even enjoyment nowadays?
Yeah. So for what I learned from, I've kind of gamified social media to put a lot of content providers into the stuff that I get easy access to by way of social media. I'm way too connected to my phone still as a person that's, like champion reading. I'm still way too connected to my phone. But I go through social media regularly and look at what's the latest, what's the greatest, and then take off of that and do some research off of it. So that's interesting. Even if it's a TikTok video, that's interesting. What is that? What's underneath that? What's that trend? What is that behavior? What's the emotional benefit? What do I think if people are doing more of this and it's replacing this? Those kind of things. So I'm constantly, like I said, I'm a teacher of everything. I'm a student of everything.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm always doing. So I spend a lot of time, that's where I get my news. So the provider of that news, and I think actually the news services are getting smart to this, is like, a New York Times article might have popped in, open that up. Now you can only open so many articles, read so many articles before you have to pay for it. Fine. Okay. We'll figure out what you want to pay for, what you don't want to. Huffington Post comes through, read that. But like even stuff like Ranker, I like, I just like to nerd out on like stuff that I like to nerd out on. But you get the right influencers. We talk about it as like, oh, the next generation is relying on influencers. We all are. We just call it things that are different. So you find somebody that you really like their perspective on something, whether it's in your social group or it's somebody further away, and then you latch on to that and then take that, like, just like with the books, it's like, this guy was influenced by that guy. Well, then let me read about that guy.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because you say that, I think, when we're in a room and we're talking about marketing strategies, right? And we're talking about influencers, and it's always other people are influenced by influencers, and who are the influencers, right? We never turn the mirror on ourselves and say, you know what, we are those other people.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, who is the set of influencers? Really, I mean, if we sit down and think about it, they're out there for us too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always find it like jarring but flattering when somebody says, "Oh yeah, like I really learned something from that presentation that you gave," and it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's why you did it, right? And you don't even think like that
Yeah.
that resonated for somebody, and it turned into something else.
Yeah.
If somebody
Yeah.
reflects on something, comes back after the fact, that makes a big impact. So you
Yeah.
become an influencer.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Cool. Cool. All right. Gotta ask this question. It's always the hardest one, right? And I'm sure it's probably even harder for you than most, right? So it's been a great chat. We've been talking
Because
research.
of my IQ level, like I need to. Oh, you
Oh,
didn't ask the question yet. I just
something
got to
like
assume.
something like that. I was thinking you listen to so much stuff and this huge variety. It's
Yeah.
going to be hard to boil it down. But I gotta ask, right? So we've been talking research. We're turning it back to music. So I'm gonna pin you down on this one. You're stranded on a desert island.
Mhm.
Just you. You got a record player
Okay.
and only 3 records of your choice to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are they?
So I'm
We
just by
have to
myself
really
on a
boil it
desert
down.
island. See, I
Yeah.
like this framing, and I'm not going to come back at you with a number of questions of what sets. You've given me enough to go from.
Okay.
But what I will
Okay.
tell you is this: is you gave me framing. I'm on a deserted island by myself, and I've got 3 things.
Yep.
So what I know about myself is there's certain music that will put me in a good mood, like an upbeat mood, an optimistic mood. And there's other music, which I also love for different occasions, will
Yep.
put me in like more of a like deep thinking mood. Maybe even
Yeah.
like a little sadness comes in, maybe a little
Yeah.
nostalgia comes in. So guess what, Matt? Those are not coming with me alone on a desert island.
All right.
So
Gotta
the
keep it
Beatles
positive.
remind me of my parents in a positive way. And there's certain songs that would make me cry. And now I'm alone on this desert island, just crying into my
Don't want
music. That doesn't feel like the right experience. So the Beatles are not coming.
that. All
Okay.
right.
Dave Corsaro picked Ill Communication by the Beastie Boys.
He did.
I have to be original. And I do have a lot of depth. So I have to take Beastie Boys Ill Communication out, which I've answered this question. There's Ill Communication in the past. So that's out. I
Okay.
need diverse mix. Rancid is my favorite artist of all time. You picked up Let's Go,
Yeah.
their next album, and it's
Out Come the
you
Wolves.
discover something. And Out Come the Wolves was actually the first one that I discovered.
Yes.
Then I went back to Let's Go, and together they're like peanut butter and jelly. I don't know how they were ever apart. And Out Come the Wolves is the first I discovered. I absolutely love that album. The deep cuts on that album are absolutely phenomenal. And you get so many great songs on one album. I don't have to go greatest hits it. It's just this one album that's beautiful. They still play the majority of their live shows are this album. After
all killer, no filler.
Eight albums since then.
Yeah.
That shows how good that album is, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
That one's number 1.
Yeah.
I'm on a deserted island when I'm on islands, and I'm not usually deserted on the island. Bob Marley.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. I mean, it puts you even more in the place. Now I'm optimistic about it. I'm on an island.
Yeah. Now it's
and what does he tell me on Exodus in 3 Little Birds? Don't worry about a thing. So I'm going Exodus by Bob Marley. And I also love the fact that I'm on my Exodus here on this deserted island. So, you know, the double entendre of the album is, I love the irony. It's not lost on me. That's 2. So now I've got punk, I've got reggae.
Yep.
I'd be hard pressed not to get a hip hop album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, by the way, is one of my favorite albums of all time.
Yes.
And I'm hard pressed to throw that out, but it feels obvious. And I'm worried that you brought up that you're going to go back through this list and see what's consistent, what's inconsistent. So for that reason alone, A Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Midnight Marauders, because that felt like Low End Theory was great, but Fife Dog, this is me getting really deep. And nobody likes how nerdy I am. My wife is like, just answer the question. Just answer the question. You always have to you ruin things. And she says that in a loving way. Midnight Marauders, Fife Dog came into his own. The style evolved a little bit. Low End Theory was very jazz driven,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
is awesome. And for the mood, yes, but I'm like, jazz, a little bit depressing
A
sometimes.
little melancholy.
I gotta
Yeah.
be careful. I'm on my deserted island. So Midnight Marauders wins out. Those are my three.
I love it. I love it. Big supporter of all three of those choices, and actually your near choices. Of course, you're going to screw up my quantitative count, right? Because I think you're
Hoping.
robbing the beasties of a mention, but it's
But
okay.
I'm also adding to your playlist.
Yes,
So
you are. You
I'm
are.
gonna push that one because there was the illusion from Dave that you might really do some justice by way of this playlist.
Dave threw that. It's entirely his idea. The Rock and Roll Research Spotify playlist. All credit goes to Dave for the idea. I told my wife, and she's like, "Duh!" And now she's bothering me all the time. She's like, "You got that playlist done yet?" I got to get to it.
There's one other that you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a plug, and it's not a plug for me because there's nothing special here. Chumley's should be added in the future. And for all those people at home that do not know who Chumley's is an up and coming punk band that in the right set of ears in the industry would blow up across the world. Chumley's is a fun band from the Texas area that has a great drummer. That I know about them. I don't go into their deep cuts, but I do know phenomenal drummer.
He's got a reputation, that much I know. I've heard a thing or two about him here in Dallas.
I mean, the buzz is out there. If we could just get enough of these influencers pressing for Chumley's, you know, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, you know what? I heard they actually launched a new single a few weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
You know what? That may have been one of the songs I listened to. And let me tell you, bon appetit.
Awesome, super cool. All right. All right, Adam, on that note, let me just say this conversation has been an absolute joy, as insightful as it has been fun. So I'm really glad that you reached out. Really glad we got a chance to connect. Let's do it again soon. Absolutely. So
this was so much fun for me. Hopefully people will listen and keep the rolling of the eyes to a minimum. And they pick up something from this, at least inspiration, right? Like go pick up a music biography.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Super cool. All right. Thanks so much, Adam. Let's talk soon and rock and roll.
Thanks, Matt.